Welcome. Yes, welcome you, welcome one and all here to our space. Today on this Explain Like I'm 5 space, we have a wonderful guest, mover and shaker, businessman, and a deep thinker in the Bitcoin society. Alex Fauvel, based in the Netherlands.
Rory, the music's still going.
Is our guest today.
It's stopped.
Yes, it's okay. It's a bit of spoken word, Alex. We go with the flow here. No worries at all. So, Alex, how are you?
It's just difficult to hear you while it's so loud.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Georgia. The sun is shining. Yes. How are you, Alex?
Yeah, good. The weather was a bit grey this morning, but it's
Yeah, you're there on the North Sea, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's not exactly the most pleasant weather most of the time, but when it is nice, it's a beautiful place to be. The rest of the time, it's just grey.
Is it? Okay, yeah. So up there in the Northern Europe, the Low Countries and the Netherlands. So what is a common snack in your village or your town?
Well, I'm in Amsterdam, so if you ever come here and go to a bar or something, they always say you must try the bitterballen, which is like a meat curry thing that's been deep fried. It's all right. It's not exactly the best food in the world.
Well, I love a good curry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
Well,
cool.
the English did well with spices, but the Dutch, I don't know, they never learned how to use them.
They were just sailing the ships around. They were too busy working, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, we'll have to try that. And you'll be traveling down to London soon for the London Blockchain Conference 2024. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because I think when it was first announced, everyone had an idea of how it would go, depending on which way the case went. And I guess we did consider the backlash if he lost, but it's a question of what happens now and how things move forward. But at the same time, BSV is completely separated from each individual participant in it. That was the original intention, and that's the way we should act. As long as the core protocol doesn't change, then it's all golden.
Indeed it is. And we have the recent updates with Terranode and ARC and so many innovations that are continuously emerging. So I think that this real business first focus is excellent. And then worrying about the players and the theater of things, well, that could be interesting if that's your thing. So yeah, I know that you're going to have a booth set up right at the front entrance of the London Blockchain Conference.
Correct. Yeah.
So will you be playing your game Dark to Light right there at the front gate?
Yeah, I'll be standing there all day basically, and we'll probably go through every single question that I'll have physically there. Play with people coming and going. It's kind of like Bitcoin in the way that participants can join and leave the network at will. That was one of the things that actually that was one of the main Bitcoin white paper that made me realize, oh, this is interesting, because I knew the state of a computer was very important to a computer network. Like for a computer to be able to leave a network and then rejoin it and know that everything that has occurred up until that point is verified by all the other participants. I realized that was incredibly important. And well, yeah, the game is quite fluid in that people can join and leave at will. And since you keep a card as a point, I don't know whether I'm going to effectively sacrifice one of the or a few of the games so that everyone that comes up, if they win the question as a point, they keep the question and they can take it home.
So that's in your mind. You haven't made the final decision yet.
Well, there's not very many of these boxes left for purchase, so
Mm-hmm.
it means sacrificing one to a bigger cause. So I think I might. I'm not taking business cards, so I'll probably do that instead.
Ooh, I love it. And that makes me think of Daniel Krawitz with you're making that sacrifice because you can, right? It's
Yeah,
a bold,
well,
bold move.
it's part of the marketing strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that those cards out there are probably more valuable to us than at the sale of the box, just because we need people to have a reminder of the interaction after playing, so that they come and join the online platform and even bring some friends back maybe to play the physical game.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I remember many months ago, we premiered the first online game where we met through the tabletop simulator and we played virtually with a real deck of cards that you had input into the virtual system. And that was a real surprising experience and experiment because I wasn't sure what to expect. I know that in this game, Dark to Light, found on the website dark number two light dot xyz. So DARK2, like the number, and then LIGHT dot XYZ. So this is where we went, and we could see that you ask a question. And when you ask the question, you are the owner of that question indefinitely. And then you can also answer questions that other people have posed. And the only acceptable answer is yes or no. And I thought, how on earth can we really play this game when there's so much context? There's so much maybe involved in these very pivotal, earth shattering questions. Um, so when we actually played, I was really delighted and surprised by just how fluid you say, it really was playing all together. It's not the end of the world. You can just pick
Yeah,
yes or no and carry on and have a laugh and think about it. And maybe
that's
then next time you play, you say yes instead.
yeah, exactly. That's the whole point, is that our opinions on things change rapidly with new information, um, and a lot of that is influenced by our online browsing habits, which we do alone. And we need to kind of bridge that gap between what we see online and face-to-face interaction so that we can compare and contrast our ideas and defend the ones that we actually think are worth defending, because most of
Mm.
your opinions on things you don't really feel like are worth defending at that moment in time. Maybe you learn a lot more about it as you go through life, and you change your opinion on it and it becomes more of an important thing to you. But that's part of the journey of discovering what you're interested in
Yes.
and what's
And
important to you.
right. And with the past few years, I know that I personally, as well as probably everyone else in the world or connected to the internet, have had some spicy interactions based on my personal opinions. And I think that your game is really refreshing and that it brings us back to the table to play and to interact and to discuss and to have that respect for differences. So I really appreciated that when playing. And Erica Badu is definitely an artist I've admired, but I remember the lyric in one of her songs was, um, "You don't believe everything you think." So sometimes we think something.
That's a great way to put abstract thought. You know, when you do have these abstract thoughts, you can't always believe everything that your brain comes up with, because otherwise you turn into a crazy person.
Well, everyone's always already crazy, I think.
It's just a sliding scale, but some people fall
Yeah.
off the end.
That's right. Oh, fun. So, I played it that one day and then I joined and I answered, asked some questions. And then I went back to daily work life and busy, busy, busy. And I just opened it up again today. I logged into my account on darktolight.xyz. And, I think it's good for us to speak through the experience online for people since this is
Of
the
course, yeah,
ELI5 theme.
yeah.
But I wonder, have there been people who have continued to play since your first iteration of the game?
Yes, uh, there is. We do have a few people coming back every day. I think there's about 10 people every 2 days or so. But one of the issues we've had is that we've had bots come through. Now, the bot situation in this game is quite interesting because I believe this is the only platform in the world in which you, as a real person going through it, can deduce the number of bots that have gone through the platform. So you can kind of get an intuition as to the skew on the results. Obviously, I'm working with more information than most people, but if you have the knowledge that bots have gone through the system, uh, that gives you an interesting perspective onto how the platform is performing, because our goal is not to completely stop bots, it's to trap them and expose them. And whatever motivations you have for botting, we consider it not part of the rules of the game and not along with the spirit of the game, because you're supposed to read each question and then make a decision for that individual question. Um, you know, so it's going to be interesting to see how the platform develops, especially as we do plan on putting comments and threads into this, so you can construct a list of questions that you could actually then package together and sell as a pack physically as well. But then this list of questions you can make about a certain topic, going down a train of thought, and that would then generate revenue for uh, each question in a new way, because you'd have to pay for these votes most likely, but it's probably on the order of a tenth of a cent per vote to play a playlist, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know whether
Mm.
that's too advanced for a 5-year-old, but oh,
Hmm.
it's 15. No, it's 5 because it's episode 15.
Right, Eli 5, right. So, yeah, explain like I'm 5 years old. Well, 5-year-olds, they're big gamers. They're always playing games. And sometimes you can make up your own rules and make up a game. And, that's a part of the joy of playing and childhood. But with your playlist of questions, is there a practical application to that? What is some example of how maybe a trainer or a dev or a
Yeah, those,
recipe maker could use this?
uh, yeah, those are great examples of varied niches that could create a playlist of questions or vote list, let's call it, or something. We haven't got the nomenclature yet. But for example, a cook could ask, do you like this in this dish? Like pineapple on pizza is a classic one, or olives in
Oh
lasagna,
yeah.
or like, things like this,
Yeah.
where it's like, well, that's your expectations. Would you try it, or something like that? Kind of like a market research tool. Fitness one is very easy because it's like, well, what's your current state? Do you train once a week? Do you think you could run 5 kilometers? Okay, well, you're not you're too lost for me to take on as a client, or these sort of micro interactions where you want to find out about a specific person or group. But then if you're talking about a specific person, the person has to agree to, share their data, maybe anonymized, but that's what the user chooses. And you can also see how you compare against the rest of someone's clients, or the rest of the world. So it, it's going to be interesting to see how, when you add context to the questions, because that's what these playlists do, they add context to the questions, so it changes your opinion of the questions as you play through them. How that compares to what someone thinks about something off the cuff, and whether you can actually change someone's mind by asking just a series of questions, because I think you can, and I think it's going to be a bit of an art to do it in as few questions as possible. There's going to be some great ones which are 2 questions, and it would just like obliterate some sort of narrative, just because it's a clear contradiction, and it's like, well, there's obviously going to be one right answer if that contradiction is exposed.
And is it the Socratic method that has inspired you in this format?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But the uh, Stoic and Socratic method, both of them, uh, I got from Craig, unfortunately. So he's inspired this from the ground up. But we all have backgrounds from before we discovered Bitcoin and stuff. And my background was kind of like playing around with the idea of economics and art and things like
Mm.
this, because I tried to make my own money. Well, I tried to
Did you?
redesign the banknotes for an art project at school, because I did fine art printing.
Mm.
And I thought it was fascinating because I'm also a bit of a mechanical engineer. It's like, well, if you can print this like ad infinitum, what gives it value? And the most common pieces of artwork on the planet are banknotes, but they're the ones with value. And I can, a kid's drawing might have infinite value to a mother or a family,
Mhm.
but a banknote is the only thing that actually has value to the rest of society. I found that dynamic very interesting.
I
Um,
see.
so
So this is something you've been thinking of for years and years.
yeah, just this dichotomy of money and artwork and value and stuff like that. It's been something that I've been pretty interested in a long time. And that's probably a lot because I'm the youngest of in my family, and all
Mhm.
my siblings did very many different things, but all kind of turning towards the art sort of sector. But then one of my siblings went into finance. Uh, and I learned about a bit about that because A, 2008 happened, but B, carbon tax credits had just become a thing.
Mhm.
And my sister was like, well, do you understand what carbon tax credits are and why they might be a good thing and important? or like a bad thing. I was like, well, yeah, it's basically just the government commoditizing the emissions of something that they don't want. Like you use tax to reduce something that you don't want.
Mhm.
You put a levy on it, and they're effectively doing that on carbon, but then they can create an entire market out of that process of financializing the air, which is effectively what they're doing. That's the level that I think these carbon tax credits getting to, is that they're financializing the air, because then they can sell financial products between companies depending on the waste of that company. And whilst that's good, they're setting the price of it, so it's all kind of like a rigged market. But I don't want to necessarily go down that rabbit hole.
Mhm.
But it is
Yeah,
part of the
that's a great
background of
example.
how I kind of came across Bitcoin, in terms of I'd already had my mind prepped in terms of these financializations of things.
Mhm.
And being a mechanical engineer helped me keep that theory into the real world. Elon Musk likes to say he's an engineer. He is not. He is a physicist who failed. He dropped out of his physics PhD. He's not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe he's read enough and done enough calculations, and he understands enough to be effective in some ways, in some very important ways. But he is standing on the shoulders of engineers. And yeah, well, he's still selling full self-driving as well.
Full self-driving, right.
Yeah.
Automated vehicles without a person making decisions,
Yeah. AI.
except for
AI is the big
destination
hype.
and route,
Yeah.
maybe. Right. Yeah. See, this is also interesting. I mean, first of all, with the carbon credit or carbon tax dynamics, potential systems, that is something that I could see my mind changing on. Like you say, there could be positives, there could be negatives. I think the negative would be greenwashing, where they simply continue to emit the most, and yet they, due to trading the tokens in a certain way, they can then come across with a kind of goody two shoes record, like they're doing so great
Yeah.
with their
Yeah. It
environmental impact, when in fact that is not true. So I think that, like we've seen with the utility of blockchain to record the real results of the emissions, is a good first step in making it maybe a positive thing to have carbon trading credits.
I agree. I think the concept of monitoring companies' waste and charging them a levy on not dealing with it, or or rewarding companies that do clean it up, or things like this, they are very much a positive thing. But I think that kind of operation needs to be put into a waste management department of the government, as opposed to the executive, because it's an emergency. Because I don't believe that the climate is an emergency, and I think I'm in the minority on that, based on the polls online. Even when you account for the bots that have gone through, which is really
Mm.
unfortunate. But we're going to be fixing it, in that bots don't act like people ever. So we can detect them and expose them. I think that's going to be the most interesting thing, actually exposing the bot activity,
Hmm.
because
Oh
especially
my gosh, yes. And that's what you're doing with Dark to Light with your game.
yeah, yeah. And if you never trust the online platform, you at least trust your friends, right? So you can play without the digital at all. You can play peer to peer, if you
Hmm.
want to put it like that.
Right, and with actual cards, a deck of cards.
Exactly.
So, and the old joke is, "Oh, have you ever played 52 pickup?" And then you drop the cards, they gotta pick them up. But with your deck of cards, there's no limit. Is that right? You could have a million
Yeah.
cards. It's just all based on the questions.
Yeah.
So how
I
do you
mean,
sell that? I mean, how can you ship that to someone if
well,
there's no
you
limit on the deck?
there's no limit on the deck in the digital world. In the physical,
Mhm.
there's always the limit of economics. How much paper are we going to use, right? How much paper and ink is it going to take to print this one question once and then all the other questions? Um, but in terms of uh, how do you play if there's a potential choice of millions of questions? Well, as you go through the questions, because you're being a kind of paid to answer a question, if you find a good question, you can put it in your pack and then make money from it by selling your collection of questions that you've found on the platform. So at the moment, there's the boost button, but in that button pays for you to get a link from to external from the website that you could make money from. But there's going to be a functionality where you can put questions in a list, and if you pay a small amount, you can put it in your list. But then you will make money from the questions in that list as well.
And bringing it back to the money, what is the money game in your game, dark to light.xyz? What are the
So you pay
costs?
50 cents for a question, plus 1 cent per character. So it's kind of like Twitter in that we limit and encourage you to be very brief in your question. That's partly because we don't want a bunch of questions that fill up the entire card, and because it's a physical thing, people need to be able to read it in like, 10, 20 seconds. Um, and once you pay like $1, you own the question and pay 100 people to respond to it. Uh, Once that 100 people is up, other people can boost the question and add uh, another 100 votes to it, and they pay you for the privilege of getting a referral link to that question, which they then can make money from by getting votes from outside of the platform.
So if we were logging in every day and simply answering questions, we could be earning
Yes, it's only like
an earning
$2
opportunity.
in a few hours. Well, maybe as a individual, I've seen someone go through it in about a day and a half. But if you're botting it, then you can go through it a bit quicker. But the mechanisms to stop botting are nearly live. We've uh, put some in already, but yeah, the more are coming very soon.
Mm. Yeah, and that is so amazing because we all know bots are such a problem, especially with people's opinions, because you can always say, "Oh, all those people who disagree with me are bots."
Well, yeah,
They're not even real.
we're trying to
So,
be transparent about our botting problem, because I believe that if you expose the activity of the bots, the end result of having the actual people still voting left that you can see is valuable information. So at the moment, there's a cost to acquiring that, and it's about our job is to reduce that cost as much as possible. Um, and I think that this is probably going to be one of the key reasons why uh, we do very well in terms of creating a voting system that is accessible to everyone and trustworthy, is because our incentives are to uh, allow people to voice their opinion and ask whatever question they want. without fear of any, you know, judgment.
Repercussions.
Yeah,
Right.
repercussions. Because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
I think the question on our platform, can a question be illegal, is 100% no of real votes,
Mm-hmm.
which gives me a lot of hope, right? Because it means that we are then a platform and not a publisher, because we don't have to monitor the question. We let the users do it by paying a cent to remove someone's question, but there's a threshold on that, and the most logical threshold is the amount that it costs to ask the question. You have to pay the same amount to remove, you collectively as individuals have to pay the same
Mm-hmm.
amount to remove a question that someone else has asked. But the advantage of that is that it's because it's so granular, to do it to an entire topic, it requires a huge amount of organization, from distributed people, verified people
Mm.
that are willing to put money behind that idea. And, you know, that can happen. It's just a question of, well, do people really care that much?
Mm-hmm. I see. And again, that is reminiscent of the structure of Bitcoin's incentive system.
Yeah, it's Bitcoin has been a big inspiration on it as well. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of one of the reasons why I'm so convinced it's going to work, because the incentives, once you pair up the request for information and the ability to deliver that information, you've got a killer Bitcoin app. And it's a question of what's that centered around. With Google, it's a search box and indexing everything online.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been hugely successful for them. With
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, it's been a product need and delivery reliably, cheaply. And that's all the qualities of BSV, and that's what I hope the qualities of this ecosystem of a game I'm trying to create will become. Uh, it's I'm not sure whether I should talk about this, but
Go for it.
future iterations of the game may be foil pack only. Um, and one of the reasons why is because I might have an opportunity to sell them in vending machines across universities, uh, which would be a very interesting uh, outlet for us, because obviously students are very politically inclined and they love voting because they've only just been allowed to do it.
And then those physical packs, you call them foil packs.
Yeah, just like
That
a
would
foil
be,
pack is like 10 cards in
okay.
a little plastic foily bag.
Mm-hmm.
They're what Pokemon cards and stuff are being sold in.
Right. Yeah, I've bought some of those for students before. And so I know what you mean. It's just a little starter kit, a little 10 pack. And what I'm thinking from listening to you over these years is that it's almost like you're doing deep research, like you're a think tank, and you're experimenting with this game, but it has so many real world uh, use cases, such as the method that you use for identifying and calling out all the bots that are within a platform. That's something that could be very valuable to well established platforms, such as this one that we're on, Twitter, as well as Facebook and
Yeah,
all the others. So
any
then,
advertising platform, effectively. we would be able to charge more for our users' identities, because we have verified them through long-lasting activity, and if they are a big player, because they'll be transacting potentially thousands of dollars a month. If we get to the size of revenue of YouTube, we will need to verify identities for AML reasons. And once we've got that level of verification, there's going to be a huge incentive for regular people that aren't big spenders to also verify their identity, because that is then a verified person behind that account, and we know that they don't have more than one account at that level.
And is this technology or method or system that you have built, is that something that can scale for others? Can you sell this wisdom or, best practice out to other organizations?
I can. I don't, because it would take time away from my deep thinking, as you put it. But it's also a huge advantage in that I can distill it down in a way that I don't need to spend a few hours telling you. It's pretty simple. Every button on a website can now become a payment, and a payment is a form of verification in and of itself, because it's value. And yes, a bot can do micro payments, but if it gets too much, at the end of the day, an individual is going to be paying the cost. So if you can trap the bots and effectively stop them from abusing your platform, the money is then stuck. And either the attacker can come and get it, or it's a company asset that you can then redistribute to your users. It depends on whether you're doing a B2C or a B2B. Because of the nature of this product, we've kind of got a niche that we're on both sides of. We can do B2B, but we can also do B2C. A bit, well, because we're primarily at the moment a B2C company, but when we then allow our users to sell their data to an advertiser in the return of a higher payout or something like that, you have advertisers paying users directly and getting valuable information or feedback, or even a conversion through people playing dark to light. But this will all come with much more activity, and that will come from much more functionality. At the moment, we're bare bones, we're like MVP online, but it is working beautifully. It's so interesting that just going through the questions yourself, after like 200, 300 questions, because we've got nearly 3,000 now, you'll be able to have a feeling of how many bots have gone through just saying yes and how many bots have just gone through saying no. They could randomize it, and even if they did, it cancels out, so it's not necessarily going to affect the results. But we're working on solutions to capture as much as we can. And well, as soon as we detect you're a bot, we're not going to be paying out, so we'll redistribute the votes for real people when we can. It's
wow, thank you for explaining that again.
It's a micropayment platform. If you rethink any B2C business into micropayments, you're probably onto a winner. I was inspired by Jack Pitts and Slictionary. His thinking on Bitcoin is very unique. he is spread thin on a lot of things, and well, he's suffering from BSV-itis, which is
What is BSV-itis?
you just get addicted to it. You throw everything at it, and it keeps on biting you in the ass. It's like, but you stick at it because at the end of the
Right.
day, you don't necessarily want to sit back when the world has ended and go, I did nothing.
That's right. Let's go. Let's just be here and keep rocking. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, when you were speaking about the ability to remove a question based on a payment, it did make me remember Slictionary's rule that if you did want to uh, delete a definition, you could pay to do so, I believe.
No, with Jack, he's more like, well, we don't want a lot of bad definitions, so we want to give you an incentive to retrieve your definition if it's not making any money. So
Uh-huh.
you lock up some coins behind your definition, and that then pays out to the person that sponsored you or you who wrote it. But if it's not making any money, then you can get your coins back. Um, and that's a great waste management system. It's a fantastic waste management system. We are probably not going to give you a refund for taking your own question out, but we do have the ability to issue a refund if you take out your own question. We haven't made the final decision on that yet, but we're going to take our time with all these features because a small issue with one could create a big issue with others. But I prefer to
Hmm.
have a lot of the issues now while we're small, so we can focus on those issues while we're agile.
Right. And that's funny because I could say then Jack Pitts is the original locker just to tease him.
Yeah, no,
Because,
you actually could. You could say that Locker's just copied a Boomer.
oh, ooh, I need a drum kit. Snap, Alex, snap. Yes, that is so funny. Well, and then there's the unlock time. So, do you think that you needed unlock time to do this function in Slictionary, or are they not related?
I'm not sure about the specifics of the contracts, if
Hmm.
they even used any. Um, I'm not sure what Slictionary did, but what's interesting about it is that it's quite a unique thing. So they don't necessarily need to be interoperable with other people because if
Hmm.
they're the only ones doing it, everyone's just going to use whatever they build. Um, so they kind of have a natural monopoly in that they've released the business idea and there's no competitors at all. I don't think. Is there another
Hmm.
word definition dictionary that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of. I can't think of any.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just comes down to the users. And so all of us, all app developers everywhere, uh, need users. This is how it can grow. And it's always a challenge because everybody's busy. So we need to, all of us that have that BSV-itis, and yet we're committed to the game. We keep playing, we keep building, and, charge ahead because it's meaningful. Uh, we can then also find time to interact or become a user of the various apps on the regular. But again, it gets away. Everybody's busy working. So, how have you found a way to recruit more active users to your platform, dark2light.xyz?
Um, Branding, I think, is a bigger thing than people realize. It's not that you just can't be connected with BSV. If you're connected with blockchain or crypto or anything, people have an aversion to that anyway. So it depends on the type of business you're going for, but I would say that it's very important to get the branding of whatever you're doing right for your intended market that is not crypto or Bitcoin. I think that I've leaned into the Bitcoin community quite a lot because I'm assured that you guys at least understand the value in, and you have the BSV, that if you own a question in a physical game, it has potential to have a revenue stream. And some of the questions have revenue stream at the moment, but just because we're small, it's not enough to recoup the amount that you asked spent to ask the question. I do know some people that have in the back end, they've made about $2 or something from boosts that other people have done, which is good. But that person asked a lot of questions. But as the questions get better, because there's a lot of spelling mistakes and stuff, because I'm dyslexic and I've written a lot of them. But also we've got some foreign, not non-native English people, so there's
Of course.
mistakes there. And if you're using the mobile phone, the UI isn't quite right for it yet. The box should
Good
expand.
point.
And then it makes it difficult to double check what you're actually writing. But then we do pop up, and the issue is that people never really read anything, which is kind of one of the reasons why
True too.
I realized that the platform would work as well, because people read headlines, they don't really read articles. This is why everyone's so excited about AI, because they just want to type in a sentence to AI and then get their skinny on everything.
Right.
But the world doesn't work like that. It's
I know.
very gray all the time. And well, if you've just got a series of headlines and you then say, do I agree or disagree, you can then create an ecosystem around the people that are doing that, which it's a social experiment. People keep on asking what's the point in the physical game, because the conversation always overtakes the importance of the points, which is similar to Cards Against Humanity or Bad People or the voting game. These games are more of like social competitions as opposed to strategy competitions. And Dark to Light's got us targeting that segment of socially competitive games, that I believe dropping the ball, because they could digitize if they just understood technology a little bit more. But that's maybe something that Dark to Light does in the future. If we sell enough games, partner with these other games and digitize them, and build an ecosystem of their own.
Yes, I feel a strong sense of that with you, that everything about this activity of this game can be a teacher or a guide to helping many other people solve problems like bots and also voting on blockchain, because this is essentially a voting game. So if we, here in my local town, we'll have voting next week. So I'll go and I'll use the digital machine and, click or touch a touch screen, make my selection, and then the paper prints out with a QR code on it. And then I walk over and I put it in a machine that looks like a printer, but you just put it
It's a
in the
Xerox
top
machine.
part. Yeah, it
It's a Xerox
is.
machine.
It
It's
is.
crazy.
It's a Xerox machine, right? Oh, wow. I wonder if it is Xerox brand.
I doubt it's a Xerox
Shout out
brand,
to
but
Rochester. Yeah,
unfortunately for
no, I don't
Xerox,
know.
they dominated so hard that they've become like Google. You Google it, you don't search it.
That's true. Or Q-tip, right? So anyway, I mean, I feel every time I go vote, I feel very queasy about it. I think, is this a shredder or is this, you know, how do I know? I can't really see what's going on in this machine.
So I
And
thought about this quite extensively. Obviously because it is a voting game and it's connected to the blockchain. So it's like, well, how do you put the two together? Effectively, you just do a big version of the table game. For example, you do it in a stadium where as you go in, you vote and everyone sits down and you watch them all. And the stadiums have got the cameras. Like,
mhm.
I mean, why is that not the protocol, especially for cities? I mean, you don't have to do that in
Well,
villages and
because
stuff,
nobody
but
would be on time. Everybody has different timing.
yeah, but that's why you just flow through. So stadiums are very efficient at bringing people in and bringing people out quickly, and
Hmm.
counting that many votes. Say you've got a couple of thousand people in the center, all with cameras on them constantly, counting the votes, or even putting them into a transparent machine that then counts them. Um, and then everyone sees their vote counted in front of them, and then they go home and you just get the next people in and do the same thing.
Mhm.
You turn the stadium into like this big machine that's voting.
Mm. Yes, I would like to see it counted. That's true. Because I just put it down and then I always ask, should I put it face up or face down?
Well,
They
it
say,
shouldn't
don't
matter.
worry, either way.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
shouldn't matter.
and then I get a sticker with a peach on it. And I'm like, oh gosh, is this really working?
Yeah, and you got to know whether they're giving you a pen or a pencil, or and you've got to have,
Hmm.
you've got to trust the observers, and how many people do you actually know that have been to these polling stations to see uh, what process they're doing and whether it's up to code. And like, even when it isn't up to
Hmm.
code, what do? Do you get the police in? Well, the police aren't supposed to get involved, so it's you
Right.
know it all becomes a bit
Exactly.
crazy. um, the voting systems that we've got throughout the world are stuck in the past 100 years. Really, they're not built for big cities, because big cities are where uh, some of the manipulation happens, but the small villages are very corruptible as well. But if you sort out the big cities, you can get then whatever infrastructure you have there and kind of replicate it a little bit, just to at least check and balance the system. Because, like you said, not everyone's going to turn up at the same time in these little villages.
Right. Some go in the morning, some go after work. Yeah. Well, I think that what you're doing is very meaningful and I've played it before. I think we should get a regular cadence going where we play this game together online again. I can at least invite us to play again in the future, maybe after the London Blockchain Conference. And then you will be there. Will you go to the DevCon on May 20th at the Excel Center?
I'm not sure I'm going to get there in time for the full thing, because I have to go to the actual stand and probably check some things, leave some things there for the next morning.
Of
We'll see how much
course,
time
set up.
I've
Yeah.
got, because I'm also getting into not exactly an easy airport. I'm not getting into city, which would have been ideal. But
Ah, okay. So you'll be taking trains, planes, and automobiles to
yes,
get there.
unfortunately, or because it's the Netherlands, bikes, trams, and trains.
Ooh, touche. That's right. You all have that healthy lifestyle in the city life. That's super cool. Well, then you will also miss all of the presentations because you will be manning the booth playing the game. So that's a
Yeah,
sacrifice. But
correct. But we don't actually
fortunately,
know who's speaking when, do we?
mhm.
Because they haven't.
No, I signed up for the virtual ticket and I love the list of companies involved. I was super excited. And then they said, soon we'll let you know about the speakers. That's the email I got from someone named Alex. just yesterday. I read that in my inbox.
That's not me.
So I plan to. Yeah,
Different
I
Alex.
know. There's you are Alexander, right?
Yeah,
Or
I think
no?
most Alexes are Alexanders, and it's just a choice of
Right.
whether you go by Alexander or Alex. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, there's a lot in BSV. It's interesting.
It is. Well, I'm excited to watch, and it's a good timing because all I have to do is wake up early and I can watch the presentations through the virtual app. I registered for my virtual ticket for the London Blockchain Conference at the Excel Center from May 21st through the 23rd. And I think that it'll just be fun to watch because last year, as I was there, I missed a lot of the presentations. And it's only recently that I've seen the replays posted on the CoinGeek or I think, different YouTube videos
Yeah,
that I've
they
seen.
tend to drip feed them out after the conferences, although they've started doing that, unless you sign up for the virtual thing, which I think is pretty good because it gives you quite a big incentive to either attend digitally live or attend in person if you can.
Right. Because in person, it's so much fun to be face to face with the people that you've seen give presentations and to network and to, find new opportunities for your business. So I think, there's definitely benefits to both. And I like the fact that it's so dynamic that when you go live and in person, it's there's an uncertainty principle to the participation. You don't know what will happen, who you will see, or how you will interact, but you're there to
I've met
learn.
great people every single time I've been, and it, the only reason that I have been able to acquire the amount of knowledge and to build the things I'm trying to build, because we've also got a venture fund that has been going for what, 4 years now, 5 years, nearly
Right.
6 years.
Q-Hop.
Yeah, which is still going. The website's down at the moment because I was just
Oh.
updating some plugins and it caused a critical error, so I'll have to fish around for a backup and reinstall it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's still going. But the only reason I've been able to build these things is because of the people I've met at these conferences, and they're very important, and we're very lucky to have them. I think because that kind of organization is quite difficult to do, and while they can make money, it's very difficult to get them to make money.
What's that?
These conferences that they're hosting for us.
Ah, I see. So you're saying it's difficult to make money from a conference, but
Yeah.
it's still very valuable, just the
Yes.
interaction.
Yes.
Oh,
Exactly.
100%. Yes. It's wonderful to be together. And I know that our friend Ruth Heisman, who has played your game, she played your game in person last year. She will be making an appearance at this year's London Blockchain Conference as well. So I'm sure she will be there at your side to play some games with the fellow friends there at the conference.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm hoping to get a decent group a couple of times throughout the day, playing the game all at once. We've had, I think, about 15 people play it all at once as a maximum that I've experienced.
Uh-huh.
But I'm hoping we can get like 20 or 30 people, which sounds a bit
Wow.
crazy, but at the same time, each round is very quick. Each
It
round
is.
can take like 30 seconds, and because everyone's putting their votes in the box at the same time. And the more people there are, the more peer pressure there is to just make a decision. So it's quite
Exactly.
interesting.
Right. And you don't see your vote. Other people don't know how you voted,
Exactly.
except for me when I shared my screen. I'm the only person
Yeah.
who's played this game and shown my cards, okay?
Yeah, I
Or
think
is
that's
there someone else?
potentially true. The
Yes
entire
or no?
game, yes. The
Right.
entire game, yes.
The
But
entire game.
I did play the online version, uh, sharing my screen on CoinGeek as well. Um,
That's
and
true.
that's similar, because you're just adding your vote to the thing. Luckily, the BSV group is pretty similar, pretty aligned with what I think anyway. So I don't think I got too many of them wrong, as it were. But you get a payout no matter what. So
Oh, that's right. And so, what should folks do that are listening now or on the replay and going to be at the Excel Center in London next week? How shall they sign up to play a game with you? Do you have certain times that are
no,
set?
we'll be there throughout, for the 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I expect that as soon as like 2 or 3 people are playing, maybe four, the group might
Mm-hmm.
grow quite quickly. Um, but we'll see how it goes. I like to keep things quite fluid at conferences because you never know who you're going to meet. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I've got a bookend to it in that I've got something to do on the Monday and something to do on the Saturday because I'll be leaving on the Sunday. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what falls out, as it were.
Right. Well, have a fantastic time and please have a Cornish pasty for me.
Yeah,
I'll miss being there this year, but I will be watching live. So definitely be sure to take a lot of photos and then even post some live action of you all playing Dark to Light. And if you could post them on the Twitter handle at Dark to Light, then that'll be cool for us to follow up and see the fun.
yeah. I might post some videos of people playing, so people actually get an idea of how it does play because it is quite an intimate game. But at a
It
conference,
is.
we're not going to be playing any of the too ridiculous questions, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have a proper experience of strangers playing it.
Good. Keep it highbrow there. Yes. Well, Alex, we've come to the time of the end of our spaces today, but I could just speak with you on and on and on. And I'm so glad to have this time with you. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. It's good to speak
Thank
to you always,
you.
Rory.
You too. So just keep us posted, and everyone listening, make sure you go get your virtual ticket for the London Blockchain Conference 2024. And all of you that are attending, make sure to use the hashtag LDN Blockchain24 so we can all spy on you as you have fun at this conference. And thank you again to our hosts, the BSV Blockchain, Brett Banffy, and Krez. We love you so much. And all of our friends in the chat, One Love, Skilly, Game Tight, Pete Pagoda, Hot Mouth, Jack, Chris, and Hanson. We're glad to see you here. So welcome back. I think that Brett and Krez will host ELI5 next week live from the London Blockchain Conference. So update your calendar and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye, y'all.